Frank, thanks for joining me on Liquid
John,
Lunch.
congratulations on the new show. You know, it was Gerald Ford who said that the 3-martini lunch was the epitome of American efficiency because nowhere else could you get a belly full, a snoot full, and an ear full. But as you mentioned, we're not just going to bring you daily the markets, not just straight up politics, but every day we're going to bring you naked lunch highlights. We're going to bring you all the latest on cryptocurrency, all the latest in terms of entrepreneurs. It's an exciting show if you want to know what's happening in politics and the economy. Right now, market down 583 points. A lot of back and forth, a lot of concern over the tariffs. I'm eager to pick your brain on that in a little bit. But whether it's entrepreneurs, cryptocurrency, we will bring it all to you right here on Liquid Lunch.
So, Frank, let's get right into it today. The politics of the day are the tariffs. Everybody's talking about tariffs. Donald Trump said we're going to 25%. The talks are off. Now China comes back and says they're going to put tariffs on $60 billion worth of American goods. What's happening out there?
Well, so it's very interesting. This is one of those stories, John, that it's not just a political story, it's not just a foreign policy story, it's not just an economic story, but it's really all three. I think, so as you mentioned, the president is sort of fulfilling a campaign promise. China wouldn't stop manipulating their currency, but the president didn't label them a currency manipulator. Then they keep ripping off America with intellectual property theft, cyber theft, and keep in mind, the American worker who's got to be paid a minimum wage of at least $7 an hour, most states a lot more, is forced to compete with an 8-year-old Chinese worker in a factory somewhere.
Who's getting paid $5 a month?
At most.
At most.
So the president puts into these in place these tariffs. China says, "Oh yeah, well we'll show you 60 billion the other way." That's where we are now.
You know, for the good part of 10 years now, I've been on all business news networks, Fox, CNBC, MSNBC, all the business networks, and I've been talking about when we have these big down days or these big up days, we don't have to panic. Okay, we're gonna have on Bobby Arciero from the New York Stock Exchange. The men and women of the New York Stock Exchange, whether the market's down 500 or up 500, they've been handling this their whole life. Don't run and look to liquidate your IRA, nor am I giving you any financial advice right now. But take it easy. Namaste. Stay calm. Let it pan out. Things will regulate. And as you've seen before, Donald Trump does what he says he's going to do. The markets react a little bit to the uncertainty of it. But do not fear. Donald Trump is here. And Frank, we've had all of Trump's people on What's the Deal, our weekly show on Sundays right here on Newsmax TV. And we've had
which is still going to be continuing, right?
It will be continuing. And starting June 30th, we'll be back on What's the Deal. But we're going to get this Liquid Lunch thing right before we go back to Sundays. But we had George Papadopoulos. We had Roger Stone. We had Jerome Corsi. All people that were implicated in the supposed collusion, coordination, and they all told our audience, there's no collusion. We didn't do anything. They turned out to be right, and the left turned out to be wrong.
Well, look, I think it's important with this show, John, and I know you're a Trump supporter, and I voted for Donald Trump. He was the first Republican presidential candidate I ever voted for. But it's important for the audience to just get the facts. So you're going to hear a multitude of different opinions, not only on today's show, but in perpetuity. You're going to hear from the most articulate, most intelligent people on every side of the political spectrum that we can find. So you're exactly right. Jerome Corsi, who never even met Donald Trump, didn't even work on the Trump campaign, he somehow got involved in this Mueller probe, and that should have been a pretty clear indication that once the whole Mueller probe is hinging on this guy that wasn't even part of the Trump campaign, never met him, never spoke to him, never spoke to Assange, never met Assange, maybe we're grasping the straws here.
Oddly enough, for you watching at home, we're not following that closely. The U.S. government and the Department of Justice proposed Jerome Corsi a plea deal. They wanted him to plead guilty. And he said, I'm not going to do that. And they promised him he'd get no jail time. Jerome Corsi didn't sign it. He said, I'm not going to swear to my God to a lie. And he decided not to take the guilty plea. And guess what? The whole collusion investigation is over. And Jerome Corsi was never charged. So our government was going to allow someone to take a guilty plea for a crime that he didn't commit. That's how badly they want to get someone in Trump's circle, right, Frankie?
You know, a lot of people watching you, John, and you've got a whole quarter century working on Wall Street, and I walk the streets of Wall Street with you. It's like going to Yankee Stadium with Don Mattingly. People start genuflecting. So I know a lot of people are watching the debut program of Liquid Lunch today, hoping to get your insight on the markets. You got to wonder, are some of the detractors that say maybe these Chinese tariffs weren't the best move, are they being proven correct with this dip of 590 points at the Dow Jones right now?
No, I think the market's been on a few-year bull run. There's a lot of float in there. There's room for it to come down. It got to go up and come down. Nothing goes straight up. And when there's big news, you know, you have Iran attacking Saudi Arabian tankers. You got, you know, saber rattling going on all around the Middle East. So the markets are a little uncertain. The one thing that the market hates most is uncertainty. Tell me it's bad news, we know what to do. Tell me it's great news, we know what to do. Tell me we don't know the news, that's when markets get scared. And right now, when they hit them with, 60 billion, the market doesn't know what's going to happen next. And people start to think, oh my God, should I sell? If you're smart, you do your homework, you educate yourself. When you have these big drops, you find the investments that are good for you, and you buy them at the lower levels. That's the way people make money.
Well, I know we have an action-packed show. I know artist Scott Lebedo is going to be here. Before we go, though, the clip that's getting the most attention is Larry Kudlow, a friend of mine, the president's chief economist, was on a rival network, Fox News Sunday, yesterday with Chris Wallace, and he basically acknowledged that it's not just China that's going to be paying the tax or the tariff. This is what he said to Chris Wallace.
The Chinese will suffer GDP losses and so forth with respect to a diminishing export market and goods that they may need for their own.
I understand that, but the president says China doesn't. It pays the tariffs. They may suffer consequences, but it's U.S. businesses and U.S. consumers who pay. Correct?
Yes, to some extent. I don't disagree with that. Again, both sides will suffer on this.
So, John, who do these tariffs hurt more, China or America?
You know, I think it hurts China more. They send a hell of a lot more goods to us than we send to them. 60 billion to me is a drop in the bucket when you think about the global economy. You think about the trade deficits, 350 billion to 60 billion. It's not a lot, and people are panicking right away. But I don't see any need to panic, Frank. I think people should just take it easy, watch what's happening with the markets. Stay tuned to Liquid Lunch because we'll keep you up to date every day from noon to 1 right here live from the financial district high atop the New York Stock Exchange at 25 Broad Street.
The other concern that people always raise with tariffs is not just what it does with the stock market, but the fact that a lot of the people that ended up voting for Trump, average Joe Q public, they're going to see higher prices when they go to their local Walmart or their local stores because a lot of those goods are imported from China. Is that going to happen, and is that a valid concern?
You know, there may be, in the short term, there may be a little bump in pricing. I could see that. But I think most Americans that I know, and I like to talk about the purple people, not these crazies that are all red and all blue. The people in the middle, the purple people that love America, they have some reds and some blues. I think most of those people like me, I'd rather pay 10 cents more for a product and see made in the USA on it. Okay?
Yeah. And in the last minute that we have before we get to Scott Lebedo, John, and I know there's a multitude of subjects we both want to bring to people's attention, is it going to lead to American manufacturers being hurt because they're going to sell less of their products in China?
No, I think the other side of the higher pricing coin is more people are going to buy American. Okay, and demand for American products will be up, and American manufacturers will be hiring people. And when they get the capacity utilization and they need to produce more, they'll hire more people, and wages will raise a little bit. Household incomes are up, wages are a little stagnant. That's the next thing that we need, Frankie. And you know what? After years of sitting on the sidelines and being a pundit, being a critic, a cynic, and all that good stuff, they let us two guys on TV to bring you the cold, hard truth every damn day. And that's what we're going to be doing right here on Liquid Lunch.